So a little poor boy was walking through his neighborhood, and he was selling some of the cookies that his mother had made, and it was how he made an allowance. And he noticed he only had 10 cents in his pocket, and he was very hungry. So he decided the next door he knocked on, he was going to ask the woman for food. Well, when the woman came, she was young and beautiful, and he got kind of, starstruck a bit, and he didn't feel comfortable asking her for something to eat. So he said, "May I have a glass of water?" So she thought to herself, he looks mighty hungry, and she brings him a glass of milk. And so he was very appreciative, and on that particular day, in that moment, Howard Kelly really changed, because all of a sudden he knew that someone cared. He could feel that presence of God. He could feel some sense of connection. And he goes on about his life, of course, and many years go by, and he's called to study a particular case of a woman that has a rare disease. And they're trying to figure it out, and they've gone to different places, and she's been through many different diagnoses, and they are unable to find what's wrong with her. So they bring in the doctor, and they look her over, and Dr. Howard Kelly now looks at this woman and realizes where she's from, and it occurs to him as he's having this memory that this is the woman back the day from his neighborhood. So he took over the case and was able to oversee her condition to a place that she was totally healed. And he said to the administration office, he said, "Be sure and give me that invoice." So as she's being discharged from the hospital, she gets an invoice. And on the bottom, it is written, "For exchange of a glass of milk." Many of you are a glass of milk to someone, to a moment. Many of you have received in your life a glass of milk, of something energetically that has been given to you that will change your life forever. It will bring you to a new awareness of yourself. It could be a tragedy. It could be an event. It can be a moment. It can be something global that's calling out of you something that's different than you were the day before. My shaman teacher who died in June, to me many years, 20 years ago, was my glass of milk. She taught me the difference between showing up for spirituality and have spirituality show up through you. There's a big difference. A lot of times people equate their spirituality to how often they attend programs, instead of the deepening of their own programming within. You make that distinction, yes? And one of the greatest things that she did for me is when she brought me to this awareness that spirituality was never destined to replace your humanity. But indeed, the more spiritual you are in your practice, the more with intention, the more depth that you put into knowing who you are, knowing where you came from, and knowing, more importantly, what you're made of, spirit, that you come to understand that your humanity is the richest part of you. All of you. Not just some of your parts, but all of you. It's a phenomenal thing. There's also the consciousness of not crying over spoiled milk. I'm sure you've heard that in your life, right? You don't have to be Southern to hear that statement. Don't cry over spilt milk. Why is that? Because so many people can get caught up in living a life of regret rather than living a life that is wanting to beget of itself. There are people that measure their lives based on what they don't want more of from their past versus what they're longing to have right now. And it's a consciousness awakening when you have that awareness, you have that awakening that you realize that to let anything from the past go. The past describes you, but it does not have to define you unless you keep bringing it into your day, or I keep bringing it in my today. Are you flowing with me? That's a reason that, to me, the automobile reminds us of like our body and life. Automobile, I love it metaphorically, and it always offers me great teachings and awareness. There's a reason that the rear view mirror on the car is smaller than the windshield that you're looking towards. There's a reason for that, right? Right? Yes. Because imagine if the rear view mirror was larger than the windshield, there's a lot of people that would spend their time looking in that versus driving and looking ahead. And that is the challenge, I feel, sometimes in our humanity, is the allowing of not spending so much time looking behind us, but looking before us, looking into the moment of us. Do you resonate with that?
Yes, ma'am.
And also giving someone else credit to be made new in the image and likeness of Christ, giving someone else a new opportunity to show up different, and not holding them in the space that they're never going to change, they're always going to be like that. Well, not with that level of affirmation. It's certainly not going to help. You know what I'm saying? It's like, absolutely. It's like, so the ability to catch oneself when we are projecting over a situation or a circumstance or a church or a community, allowing room for things to unfold and to experience in a different and new and vibrant way. The answers do not come from looking in a rearview mirror. Right? So, when you came in today, you were given a note. You were given a piece of paper. Right? Did you have any thought to what it was or what it was about? Just kind of interesting about it. Well, why don't you take a moment and tell somebody beside you what you thought it represented to you? It's okay, you can talk, we're in church. How many of you, if you're willing to raise your hand, were talking about the black dot? Yes. This was a great story that I found, and anytime I find these great stories, I don't want to just keep them to myself. But it's about a college professor that rather than giving his students a test, he gave them this quiz. He gave them a piece of paper just like you have in your hand with a black dot, and he asked them to do their paper on what the paper meant to them. And every student came back with their theory of what the black dot stood for, or why it was located where it was on the page, or how big it was compared to the rest of it, etc. And he said, but what I want you to see is that no one talked about the white, the biggest part of the paper, that no one talked about the white in the paper, except a couple of geniuses probably in our group. And he was wanting to show them, this is how we do life. This is how we do life, is that we have all this white to vision. We have all this to look at that's all white, all this space, all the things we don't know, all the things we dream of, all the things we know and hope for our children. All the possibilities, all the things about our lives, our age, our awareness, our relationship, where we haven't been on the planet. We have all those things in white. And yet, more often than not, we'll put our energy on the black dot in our lives. The one thing, the one person that's upset with us, that's been upset for 35 years. The one situation, the one thing on our minds, the disappointment, the thing, the what we heard. You can be in the best mood forever and be on Facebook and look at all the white events in everybody's life, and all of a sudden here comes a black dot. It just zaps your mood, just rolling on down the hill, right? Just that kind of space. It's like focusing on the dot. The power of the dot. I want you to keep this. I would invite you to keep it. I'm going to in my office. So it will bring me back on track when I look at that and reinstate to myself to look at the white. It's really the unity practice to look at the white, to look at the possibility, to look at the adventure and the mystery and to live like that as the eyes of a child. You know, I mean, I love it when children are walking up or they're walking up the aisle and they come in here on Sunday morning and they're like, wow. You know, I mean, I would love to see that look on some of your faces as adults sometimes. Wow, what's going to happen here? You know, I mean, imagine going home to your husband or wife or your partner today and just greet them that way. Wow. I couldn't wait to get home. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can clap. This is church, right? Right? Or you go to your office. Yes, I'm here. We don't want to lose that. We want to reinstate within ourselves that we are the ones that are letting that go, and we are the ones in the greater way that in the now moment can bring it back. The best is yet to come, and actually the best is right here. I wanted to share with you something that I felt impelled, because I feel that cultures of people often focus on the black dot of what's going on in our world instead of the white. This is what I wrote. Don't let breaking news break you. Pray, hold the high watch, take positive action. Grieve the events, but do not lose heart. Feel the frustration, but transcend it to proactive choices and solutions. We will not solve anything by operating at the level of these issues. We are at a critical point, but not for critics to make their point. Be brave and strong, bound with principles. 24/7 News has been after us for a long time. Do not let them weaken your spirits. Do not give in. The more we feed into the drama, the more advertising sells. Bad news sells. If you think they, 24/7 News, have our best interests at heart, ask a shark. The news turn one of the greatest creatures on the planet into something that children fear and who they project doesn't deserve to exist. Use your inner wisdom. What is real? What are you selling? What is your 24/7 reality, and what am I selling? What are we selling as a nation and a world? This is our time. All of you dreamers and sages, all of you practitioners and great thinkers, this is our time. How will we be remembered? The children are watching. Stop. Be attentive and choose wisely. All of us can impact our world. The question is, how? Don't let breaking news break you. Bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we are a community to have the experience, like Jesus taught us, be in the world, but not of the world. And so we come together and we have these windows, these moments, this looking forward of truth, that we remind ourselves that we never sacrifice principle, not on any occasion, that more than ever before we deepen our commitment to be who we are and stand for what we believe in. Really powerful stuff. Years ago, through many years of training through as a little girl of what God was, gray-haired, usually beard, in the sky, looking down, writing notes about, everything I did and the neighbor did and all that. And, being mad at me most of the time. God was mad most of the time. I never could figure out how he had time for anybody else, but that's a different talk. So I had all this conditioning in my mind, and as much as I appreciated New Thought Unity, I appreciated the value of what they were teaching me, that looking in the rearview mirror, that old still idea, that recognition came up for a while. So I created different analogies, different thoughts for me that were very helpful when people would talk about there's a law, always working, and it's working for your good. And by then I'd had a lot of experience with the other law, the kind that pulls you over with a blue light and stuff like that. So I kept going, okay, this all laws working for me, but how can I hold that? So I created this image that when we use affirmation, when we use declaration and invocation, It's likened to a photocopy machine. And so when you stand in your day and you hold the space and you affirm, I am beautiful, I am God's beloved, anything is possible, life is amazing, you can take that to the photocopy machine and without question, it will reproduce for you all day long, yes? And it will bring that energy field all day long. But let's think about another day you may have. And in that other day you write on there that sheet of paper, I'm not worthy. I don't look that good. I'm getting older. That's the reason I blame everything these days is I'm getting older. And, or I lost my love in a lonely place and I'm lonely or whatever. You can go back to that same photocopy machine and it doesn't smoke and start burning and go, is that you? It doesn't go, what happened? For 10 consecutive days, you're the person that has been saying who you are in your glory. It doesn't shut down. It doesn't stop functioning. It will also create for you that same space, you see. That's why we remain intentional about our consciousness and what we focus on, because a trained mind is very powerful in what we call in and what we bring into effect, yes? I am what you would call an enlightened romantic. That's when, with your own romantic ideas, you do things crazy, but when you're enlightened, you actually remember them. You're with me? Okay, yeah. So I got it in my mind after my mom had been saying over and over again on a photocopy machine that she didn't want a cat. And for 40 years, we would, through the years, my father didn't want one, so that helps you understand the story. He didn't like cats, and he made that clear. My mother wouldn't let herself have one, okay? So I got it in my mind that for her 80th birthday, I was going to take her a cat for her birthday. That's why I'm saying I'm an enlightened romantic, because it's not like she couldn't have adopted a cat where she lived, 10 and a half hours from here. But no, so I was called to take her this particular cat. Intuitively, I just knew it. And after all those years of saying no, after all those years of holding that space, I knew within inside myself, you see, intuitiveness will overcome any level of negativity. Intuitiveness will bring you and your condition to a whole new understanding, if you will allow it. And so I want to share that we took Mom the cat. It goes on record as being one of the greatest gifts she's ever received, and I think we have a picture of Oliver right there. Yeah. But all of a sudden, I was able to see someone who lives alone have an energy in her field that I haven't witnessed for years. All of a sudden, a connection of something. All of a sudden, a life right of a statement of getting a young cat for her saying, you're going to be around a long time. Don't be making any other plans. Life is always for now. It is about this consciousness for now. What is it within you as an enlightened romantic do you want to go for? That you're called for. It's not supposed to be logical. It doesn't have to make sense, okay? Just don't quote our church in the paper. But what is it that you're being called to do without question? Go with your heart. Go with your heart. Bring it on. For you will change somebody's life forever. More importantly, your own, through a glass of milk. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
In closing, I love this, and it reminds me often of where I need to be. It's called the autobiography of life. So, chapter 1, you walk down the street, there's a hole, and you fall in the hole. Chapter 2, you walk down the same street, there's that hole, you fall in it. Chapter 3, you walk down the street, there's the hole, you can't believe you've actually fallen in it again, but you get up faster than you did the first 2 times. Chapter 4, you walk down the same street, there's the hole, and you walk around it. Chapter 5, choose a different street. Yes? Choose a different street. You are the ones we've been waiting for. Choose wisely. Thank you for being here today. Thank you.